Namaskar friends, I welcome you back to video 2 of week 6. Today we step into the space where every criminal investigation begins, the FIR. That is what we call First Information Report. We often think of the FIR as a procedural document, but for forensic linguists it is far more than that. It is the first linguistic recording of the crime. It sets the tone, it shapes the narrative, it influences how investigators think, and most importantly, it can either strengthen the case or weaken it dramatically. So, what is an FIR linguistically? Not just legally, but how it impacts linguistically, that we will discuss. Friends, legally, the FIR initiates the criminal law machinery. It's the ignition point. Linguistically, it is the complaint's first attempt to capture the experience of the crime in words. And this is very crucial. A traumatic event, when converted into language, undergoes emotional compression, selective memory, and narrative reconstruction. Friends, the FIR may not contain perfect details, but it contains the authentic linguistic traces of the complainant's perception. As a forensic linguist, we study the language of experience, not just the described events. Friends, narrative framing begins with the FIR. The words chosen, the structure of the complaint, the tense used, the emotional tone, all of this influence how police shape their investigation. A well-written, clear FIR guides the investigator. On the other hand, a vague or poorly drafted FIR creates blind spots. The first narrative becomes the anchor around which every subsequent narrative is built, like witness statements, charge sheets, legal arguments, and so on and so forth. And that's why the FIR is the linguistic seed from which the case grows. Now, when courts examine FIR with a linguistic eye, or we can say linguistic lens, even though they do not always call it that, they pay attention to how clearly is the incident described, how consistently is the timeline stated, whether specific verbs, that is hit, threatened, followed, likewise, supported the alleged offense, whether identity markers match the accused, whether the complainant's emotional state appears natural for the situation. These linguistic cues help courts assess naturalness, plausibility, and credibility. Now, if we talk about the common linguistic issues in FIR and why they occur, friends, FIR often contain inconsistencies, not because of the complainant is lying, because FIR are written under pressure, fear, confusion, or trauma. Some issues like overgeneralization. For example, it is written like he harassed me continuously. Missing specificity, that is, they threatened me. Ambiguous pronouns, inaccurate sequencing, lack of clarity in relationships or roles, police dictation altering natural speech. Even that happens sometimes. As forensic linguists, we must differentiate between trauma-driven inconsistencies, and fabrication-driven manipulations. This is very important. Now, let's go through an example how a misinterpreted FIR creates confusion. An FIR states, "They attacked me near the shop." If there are 4 accused persons, the word "they" either mean all 4 or only some of them. Courts have overturned conviction simply because the FIR's pronoun choice created ambiguity. This shows how a single linguistic choice can shift the entire legal outcome. Friends, FIRs and the BNS, they create a linguistic link. Under the new BNS, offenses are defined with specific linguistic thresholds like force, fear, dishonest inducement, deceit, assault, sexual intent, likewise. If these linguistic thresholds do not appear clearly in the FIR, the prosecution struggles later. For example, an FIR for cheating must show deceit or inducement. An FIR for assault must show the fear or force element. And the FIR must contain a linguistic skeleton of the offense. One of the biggest challenges is that the FIR is not written by the complainant. It is written by the police based on the complainant's narration. This introduces a linguistic mismatch. The complainant speaks the first person lived experience. The officer writes the formal legal reportage. This shift changes tone, removes emotional markers, and reforms sentences into legal templates. As forensic linguists, we must remember that FIRs carry 2 voices. The complainant's one, that is complainant's intent, and the officer's expression. Now, what is the role of a forensic linguist? Or what is the role of forensic linguistics in analyzing FIR's reliability? As a forensic linguist, we should examine FIRs to assess, number 1, the naturalness of narration, event coherence, the consistency of the tone, the authenticity of the lexical resources used, alignment with non-trauma speech patterns, deviations suggesting external influence. These are some of the criteria that we can use. By analyzing the FIR linguistically, we help courts understand whether the FIR reflects genuine experience, altered narration, or coached language. Now the question is, when FIR language reveals fabrication or coaching? Friends, fabricated FIRs often show unnatural linguistic patterns like excessive legal vocabulary is not used by the laypersons. Over precision in timing. Things are written to the minute. Third one is scripted emotional tone. Right? The surprising thing is perfect sequencing. Right? How it is possible with inconsistent, right, with real trauma. The absence of hesitation markers. These are all markers that can help us. Friends, real complaints rarely speak in perfectly structured narratives. And I tell you that the language of written and language of spoken, both are different. If you observe the structure of both the language, you will understand that the sequence of the sentence structures are changed. And if you can do that, you will get to know, because it is spoken one, it's not written one. If nobody is speaking and I write on my own, right, I will write the way I write. But when somebody is giving dictation, that means I will write the way it is spoken. And this can be one of the best clues. Friends, when the FIR reads like a polished legal argument, it raises linguistic red flags, as I told you. Friends, courts have repeatedly emphasized that FIRs should not be judged like encyclopedias. In State of Punjab versus Gurmeet Singh, 1996, the Supreme Court noted that FIRs reflect trauma and should not be expected to contain every detail. In Damodar Prasad versus State of Maharashtra, the court highlighted the importance of natural, unpolished narration. These cases show that courts instinctively recognize linguistic realities, even when they do not explicitly use the term forensic linguistics. Now, how to train yourself to read between the FIR lines? As a future forensic linguist, you should ask yourself, does the FIR sound lived or scripted? Do the emotions match the alleged event? Are inconsistencies trauma driven or manipulation driven? Does the FIR reveal the complainant's voice or the officer's modifications? This awareness will help you evaluate FIRs with precision and empathy. Dear friends, when we are coming to an end of this video, I must thank you for joining with me on this essential topic. FIRs are not mere administrative documents, they are linguistic events that shape justice. Friends, in the next video, we will explore charge sheets and how the prosecution's narrative construction depends heavily on linguistic strategy and coherence. So until I catch you in the video number 3, stay tuned to the course. Thank you very much. Namaskar.